What's up, guys? So we are going to do a quick tutorial on how to play a mud, and more specifically, how to play Advent of the Mist mud, because we feel like that's the best mud. But I might be a little biased there. So for those of you that have never played a mud before, we do have some newbie-ish tutorials under Play Now. You can see New to the Mud. Kind of gives some guidelines on what a mud is and certain commands, and we're still fleshing all of this out. There's also some additional video tutorials on how to create a character, how to do the skill system, things like that. But the big thing I want to go over in this video is how to get on the mud and going through the character generation system. It's not much different than these older videos, but I figured maybe this one would sound a little louder. We got new technology for recording these type of videos, so this is what you get. First thing that we are going to do is go to the Advent Mud website and then go to Play Now, which also is Connect to Play, and this just goes over some brief information about connecting to the mud. And the biggest thing that I want to go over is there's a lot of different ways to connect these days. A lot of people use what's called a mud client, a specific program for logging into the mud. But there are other methods, such as there's a browser-based client for Chrome called DuckMud. I haven't used it, so I don't know how good it is. I think we have at least one player that uses it, and I mean, they seem to do fine. It probably doesn't have a lot of the features that a mud client would have. Mostly because mud clients are built to work on mud, so they have all these cool little features. If you feel like playing with a mobile phone, we do have some mobile clients listed. I've used Muckluck, like if I'm on the road and I need to log in to check something, and it works fine. It's definitely a little tedious. Nobody likes typing that much on their phone. So that option is there. And then, of course, MudRammer if you happen to use an iOS system. But we have a list of some of the really popular mud clients. I think Mush Client is the one that a lot of our players currently use. I actually use ZMud. It's an older client, but it has all the features that I find useful. And we have a link to download the zip file for that, which is basically a zipped up executable of the information that you're going to need to utilize. You don't have to install anything necessarily. I mean, it's an executable, so it does install, but it's something that you can put on a flash drive and still run it, basically. So this is what ZMud looks like. And what we're going to do is on the file option, there is the option to create another character. I know you may not have a character now, but this is still the option you're going to want to go to in order to set things up for your login. And then from here, you have a list of all your current characters. For this, I went ahead and created a tester account. You can just hit new, and then it pops up this screen here that lets you add in your input for logging into the mud. For me, ZMud has tabs. See how this has two tabs? If you have multiple characters or multiple muds you want to log into, I like the tab functionality, kind of like a browser. So that's one of the reasons I like ZMud. And the ID, I think, is what shows up down here. So I always put my character name. For this purpose, we're just going to do tester. And then also I put it under the character name here. And then the two main things that you're going to need to log into any mud is the host address and then the port number. Ours happens to be adventmud.funcity.org, and then our port number is 8310. So once you input that in, it'll automatically pull the IP address. You don't need to add that in. You would hit save. That saves it as an option or a stored character that you can use to easily log in later. And then I'm going to hit connect. Now, you're technically connected to the mud, or you're about to connect, but what you'll see here is basically an intro screen, and then you start with creating the character through the first name. So what name shall Asori inscribe on your page of time? Asorium is basically our goddess of the underworld, the keeper of knowledge and time, and so it's just kind of like a little in-game reference to what your character's name is. So for this particular tutorial, I'm just going to make one called tester. The first thing it's going to ask is, will this name fit in the game? And the reason that we cite these 4 examples is because we want to kind of stick with our theme, which is like medieval fantasy, classic medieval type theme. So certain names, like if you wanted popular science fiction or fantasy like Bilbo, you're not recreating those characters. You can create characters like them, but we don't allow popular fantasy names in there because it's just kind of ruins the mood a little bit. I don't know. We just don't allow it, so don't do it. And then option number 2, words cannot be taken from the dictionary or a combination thereof. And this isn't meant to be specifically literal. Obviously, most words are in the dictionary that might be regurgitated into a name, but this is basically cheese factor. We don't want people to create names like Ice Tooth and Shadow because, let's be honest, if someone told me their name was Shadow, I would think that they're a little off. So in order to not break immersion with the cheese factor, we limit those type of names. Names should not be modern or contemporary. So if I'm in a medieval classic fantasy type realm and someone says their name is Bob, I feel like that would break immersion for me because that's not a popular name for fantasy style games. So we try to limit those. I mean, there will be some exceptions. I mean, Crystal's a goddess, and Crystal's a modern name, but it's not necessarily conventional. And then the option 4 is the name should be pronounceable. Basically, the issue behind this was that a lot of people would create a name that's just like a spit of keyboard characters in order to prevent people from being able to target them, to either attack them or cast a spell on them or something. And they're not pronounceable and they're not easy to type, so we don't allow those type of names. So Tester obviously is not a name that follows these conventions, but for all intents and purposes, this is what I'm going to use while we're going through this. So does my name meet these guidelines? Yes, even though it doesn't really. And then you choose a password. These are encrypted, so we don't know what your passwords are, but and there's no has to be a certain amount of characters, or it has to be like uppercase, lowercase, include certain characters. So once you have your password set, it's going to ask you to enter your family name. This is basically your surname or your last name. It's not a required field. So if you want to skip it, you can, but this is where you would type in your name. I'm going to skip it. And then you would choose your race to play. Now we have 12 in-game races, and all of them have a page on the website that you can look through and kind of decide through their history and their personality and their features if it's a race you want to play. But only 11 are playable because we have the Hydralians are not a playable race. We don't have any water areas for them to be in right now. Later on, as we get more oceans built and islands and things, then we'll probably bring them in as a playable race. But in the meantime, you can choose any of these. If you're not sure what they are and you can't access the website, there is the option to type help Aramis as an example. It kind of gives you a rundown of what that race is. It does let you type help files in this section that are already in the game. If you forget the rest of the race list, just type help again. And you can see the race list again here. Let's say you want to look at, I don't know, Falar. Again, it gives you kind of a rundown of what the Falar are, and you can look at, see what they look like. But again, all of this information is also on the website once you've decided on a race. For this, we're going to choose human because human's a very easy race to play if you're just starting out and you're not sure how to interact with people as the races in the game. Then human might be a good option for you. And at this point, you get to choose a birth month. This essentially it's kind of like a zodiac system where instead of being born in a specific month, you get to choose what month your character is born in. And the reason that this is even relevant is a lot of these months provide certain starting stats like strength or dexterity to help your character start out differently than others. So not all the characters are the same. And you can see what each month does by typing. Let's say for Wild Hunt, help month of the Wild Hunt. That gives you a descriptor of what that month means, as far as it could be something you used as a character concept. So those born under month of the Wild Hunt they're kind of hardy and athletic. They tend to be wild. They don't like being caged. So maybe that could be part of your character concept. It doesn't have to be. This is completely optional, but it provides a starting point for people that don't know specifically how they want their character to be. The other main thing is trying to figure out the stats for your character that this month is going to add. And for month of the Wild Hunt, it says that their resilience, maybe your endurance, like your type of constitution is stronger if you choose this month. Maybe they give you some boosts in that stat. It says hardy and athletic, so maybe you get a boost to your dexterity by choosing this month for starting out. So just look at each month, figure out, what fits your character stat-wise, like that you want for your character. If you don't care about that necessarily, then just maybe pick one that fits the concept of the character you're trying to build as far as personality or their history. The option's there. So for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and choose Hunt. And then it asks for your gender. A lot of this was put together many, many years ago, so we don't have a lot of the gender binary type options yet, just male and female, but that may be something that comes later down the road. So for now, I'm just going to choose female. Do you want ANSI color? I usually say yes for this. Actually, I always say yes for this because the color kind of adds a little bit of organization to a lot of the text that you're going to be seeing as you're playing. If you prefer not to have colors, then you can say no, but you can turn this on later in the game. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And then it gives you the option to link to an account. Now, this is important because you get certain points as your character that are attached to your account file. Now, let's say you've got 100 roleplay points that you've earned over the course of one of your alts. Maybe that alt dies and you create another one. Well, those roleplay points that were attached to your account now give you experience points that you can use to build your next character and add skills to it right out the door rather than starting as a complete newbie. So we always recommend linking to an account. I think I already have one called Tester. No, I don't. So we're going to create an account called Tester. And do I want it to be called Tester? Yes. You add a password like before. And then it asks to enter in your email address. Now, we don't use this email to spam or send out emails or anything like that. We have the ability to receive emails through our forum. But this is specifically so that if you lose your password, we have to email it to you to make sure that you're the person that's supposed to receive it. So if you don't have an email address and you happen to lose your password or you forget it, it's going to be harder for us to be able to restore that for you. So we always suggest adding an email. But again, it's optional. It's up to you if you want to add it. We're not going to spam you, I promise. I will add my email. And at that point, now you're at message of the day. This is basically a screen that you will run into every time you log in that gives you some information you might need to know for today. This basically goes over what we are, that we're in alpha testing, what current events are going on, and then what help files might be useful for you starting out or to update yourself on any changes to the game. Help Recent gives you an outline of what help files have been updated recently. Maybe there's some new lore available. Help Updates gives you a list of things that have been coded recently or added or changed. So that might be relevant to you. Maybe a spell or a skill that you have has been changed or added to or something. So it's good to look at those as well. Once you're in the game, you're dropped into basically the starting area. And you have two options once you're here. This mob listly that you'll see on the screen kind of describes what your two options are. You can either continue through the newbie area by typing west. And that basically goes through a bunch of different commands on how to pick things up and how to talk to people. And basically just getting newbies familiar with MUD commands in general. Now, if you've played MUDs before or you just want to get right into the game, you can type I'm an experienced player and it'll drop you right into the live portion of the game. This portion is technically not live, meaning it's not in a place where other players can get to you. But if there's another newbie that's creating at the same time as you, they may be dropped in here with you. If that's the case, you're welcome to interact with them, but you don't have to. There's also certain commands that you can use if you have questions or if you get stuck. There is an out of character channel. It's basically a newbie channel. And first thing I'm going to do is is type who. Who is a way to let you see who's online right now. You can see there's 2 gods, Crystal and Cedric, and then there's a couple players that have a helper flag. Now, these players are specifically meant to be there to answer questions for you, and one of the ways they do that is through the added character or newbie channel. And you can type OOC. This is a test message from Crystal, so they know that I'm testing, because otherwise they're going to try to talk to me. And that goes to all the helpers and the staff. They can respond to you through that same channel. Now, if you want to send a tell to one specific person that's a helper or is a staff member, then we'll do a tell to myself. Tell Crystal, test. And that sends a message specifically to her so that, if I have a question, she can respond to me. And then there is the ask channel. I type ask test. That is a command that goes to all of the staff that are online right now. Now, there's going to be characters that are online, but you can't see them on the who list because they're invisible or it's a staff member that's hiding. So the added character channel and the ask channel are good for that because it'll go to them whether you can see them on the who list or not. Whereas the tells, you can only send a tell to someone that you can see on the who list. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to utilize these channels. There's also on the website a contact us form. On the contact us page, that goes to all the staff, but those send an email, and it's not an immediate response type scenario because we're not always checking our emails. We also have a very active Discord channel, so if you're familiar with Discord, or we're more than welcome to, or more than happy to get you familiar with Discord, join the server. There's a couple channels there that you can ask staff and players alike, all players, and someone will probably answer you right away. So again, if you have any questions, let us know, but hopefully this kind of gives you a rundown of at least how to get into the game. And then from here, all you have to do is just check out some of the tutorials, the help files, the website, ask questions, and you should be good to go. Thanks.